Dear students, welcome back. Welcome back to the online English class. Now we are discussing the lesson The Sound of Music. Part 1. Evelyns Glennie listens to music without hearing it. Already we discussed how Evelyns became deaf and we discussed about her passion towards music. In the last part we discussed her meeting with Ron Forbes, a famous percussionist. Ron Forbes identified her potential and supported her in achieving her goal. He trained Evelyns to sense the music through different parts of her body. He told her to use whole body to feel the music. Suddenly, Evelyns was excited because she felt the vibrations in every part of her body. She followed Ron Forbes' instructions like an obedient student. And she had learned to open her body and mind to sounds and vibrations. After this, she never looked back. She joined the famous Royal Academy of Music and she worked hard with strong determination. She got to the top. This is what we discussed in the last part. Now let us discuss the remaining part of the lesson. Please listen carefully. In our 2-hour discussion, she never missed a word. The writer Deborah Cowley, she shares her experience when she interviewed Evelyns Glennie. She interviewed Evelyns Glennie for 2 hours. And she says that Evelyns never missed a single word that she spoke. In our 2-hour discussion, she never missed a word. Now the writer explains what she said. Now Deborah Cowley explains what she said. Evelyns says that those men who have long, huge, bushy beards give her trouble. Men with bushy beards troubled her. Men with bushy beards made trouble for her. Why? She laughed. Evelyns said these words and laughed. Evelyns said these words to Deborah Cowley and she laughed. Men with bushy beards give me trouble. Men with bushy beards give me trouble. It is not just watching the lips. It is the whole face, especially the eyes. It is not just watching the lips. It is the whole face, especially the eyes. Evelyns says that she does not see the lip movement of such people. That's why men with bushy beards gave her trouble. Men with bushy beards made her trouble because she cannot see the lip movement of such people. She sees the whole face. That means the entire expression of the face of the speaker makes Evelyns identify what the person is saying. That's why author said, Evelyns never missed a word when she interviewed her. When she interviewed her, Evelyns never missed a word. She could understand all the questions very easily by observing the lip movement of Deborah Cowley. And she added that men with bushy beards made trouble to her. Evelyns can identify what the person is saying by just watching their facial expressions. She says that the expression of the eyes helps Evelyns make out what the person sitting in front of her is saying. It is not just watching the lips, it is the whole face, especially the eyes. She watches the lips, the whole face, especially the eyes when anyone speaks to her. And she could easily identify what the other person is saying. So during her 2 hours interview, Evelyns never missed a word. The author continues sharing her experience when she interviewed Evelyns Glennie. She speaks flawlessly with a Scottish lilt. Flawlessly means without a fault. The writer says that Evelyns' speech was flawless, without a mistake. And she has a Scottish accent. She belongs to Scotland, so her voice has that accent. Lilt means the way of speaking. She spoke in a Scottish accent, but there was no mistake in her speech. She speaks flawlessly with a Scottish lilt. She speaks flawlessly with a Scottish accent. My speech is clear because I could hear till I was 11, she says. Evelyns said to Deborah that she can speak clearly because she had learned the language. She could hear till the age of 11. So she learned the language, studied the language till the age of 11. So her speech is clear. She says, my speech is clear because I could hear till I was 11. But that doesn't explain how she managed to learn French and master basic Japanese. Now, author got surprised. She says that till the age of 11 she can hear and she studied the language. But the author found that after becoming deaf also, she learned 2 new languages. After becoming deaf, she has learned French and basic Japanese language. Author wonders, how could she learn these 2 new languages despite her deafness? But that doesn't explain how she managed to learn French and master basic Japanese. It cannot explain how she managed to learn another 2 new languages after becoming deaf. The writer wonders. The author Deborah Cowley explains her experience again. Please listen. As for music, she explains. They discussed about language. Now Evelyn explains her experience about music. It pours in through every part of my body. It tingles in the skin, my cheekbones, and even in my hair. Here Evelyn explains that how does she identify music. It creates sensation in her skin, in her cheekbones, and even in her hair. It pours, the sound, the music, pours in through every part of her body. It tingles in the skin, her cheekbones, and even in her hair. So, every part of Evelyns' body responds to music. This is what Evelyn said about how she identifies the music. When she plays the xylophone, she can sense the sound passing up the stick into her fingertip. When she plays the xylophone, she uses sticks and she can feel the vibrations of the sound produced by the xylophone pass through the sticks up to her fingertips. When Evelyn Gunny plays the xylophone, she can feel the sound of the xylophone passing up the stick into her fingertip. This is how Evelyn responds to music. This is how she identifies music. Every part of Evelyn's body responds to music. Students, please listen. By leaning against the drums, she can feel the resonances flowing into her body. Resonance means echoes of sounds. When she plays the drum, she leans towards the drum. Lean means to incline or to bend. And she can feel the echo flowing into her body. She can feel the resonances flowing into her body. When she plays the drum, she would stay in a bending position. She would lean towards the drum and she can feel the echo flowing into her body. On a wooden platform, she removes her shoes so that the vibrations pass through her bare feet and up her legs. Whenever she performs on a wooden platform. Then she removes her shoes. Why she removes her shoes? She can feel the vibration of the musical instruments pass through the wooden platform into her feet and up to her legs. She can feel it. She would stand on the wooden platform and removes her shoes so that she can feel the vibrations of the music instruments pass through the floor into her feet and up her legs. This is how she can feel the sound of the musical instruments. Dear students, now let's see how is Evelyns' performance. Not surprisingly, Evelyn delights her audiences. In 1991, she was presented with the Royal Philharmonic Society's prestigious Soloist of the Year award. Now, Evelyn makes her audience enjoy her performance. She gives very good solo performances. She is very good at playing percussion instruments. In the year 1991, she got the prestigious Soloist of the Year award from the Royal Philharmonic Society. She started receiving world-famous awards Evelyn became the world famous multi-percussionist. She made very good solo performances and she received many prestigious awards. Says master percussionist James Blades, God may have taken her hearing, but he has given her back something extraordinary. What we hear, she feels far more deeply than any of us. That is why she expresses music so beautiful. This comment we have seen in the beginning of the lesson. We discussed about it. These are the words of master percussionist James Blades. James Blades is an English percussionist. He said these words about Evelyn Glennie. According to James, God took away Evelyn's hearing ability. God may have taken her hearing ability. But in return, He gave her some extraordinary skills. He gave her a strong power of sensing sounds, which enabled her to become a great musician. God may have taken her hearing power, but He has given her back something extraordinary. God has given her back some extraordinary skills. With this skill, what we hear, she feels far more deeply than any of us. She can feel the sound than a normal person. That is why she expresses music so beautifully. The extraordinary skills that is given by the God helps her to express music so beautifully. These are the words of master percussionist James Blades. Evelyn confessed that she is something of workaholic. Workaholic means a person who finds it difficult to stop working. A person who always wants to do work. A person who finds it difficult to stop working. Evelyn is very hard working. She admits that she is a workaholic. She is very hard working and she does not stop working. She cannot stop working. I have just got to work, often harder than classical musicians, but rewards are enormous. She says that she always does hard work than other classical musicians. She needs to do hard work. She has some limitations. She needs to work harder. Evelyn says that she needs to work harder. So to be at par with those people who can hear, Evelyn works very hard. But the rewards are enormous. Evelyn says that the rewards, the results for her hard work are enormous. She works hard. She works harder than other classical musicians. And the rewards and the results are enormous. She gets enormous results for her hard work. Apart from regular concerts, Evelyn also gives free concerts in prisons and hospitals. Evelyn does charity work also. Normally she has regular programs, musical programs, concerts. Apart from the regular concerts, Evelyn gives free concerts in prisons and hospitals. She does charity also. She gives free programs in hospitals and prisons. She also gives high priority to classes for young musicians. She also handles classes for young musicians. She gives priority to the classes for young musicians. She gives importance to the classes for young musicians. These are the charity works done by Evelyn Glennie. What are the contributions of Evelyn Glennie towards the field of music? What are the contributions of Evelyn Glennie as a percussionist? She has brought percussion to the front of the orchestra and demonstrated that it can be very moving. She has brought percussion instruments to the front of the orchestra. Orchestra is a group of people who are playing different musical instruments. And generally the percussion instruments like drums and xylophone are placed at the back end of the orchestra, or they are placed at the side. But as Evelyn performs, she gives special performance with these percussion instruments. The percussion instruments have come in front of the orchestra. That is the important contribution of Evelyn Glennie. She has brought the percussion instruments like drum, xylophone, etc. to the front of the orchestra. And she proved that it can be enjoyable. She brought the percussion instruments to the front of the orchestra. This is the first contribution of Evelyn Glennie. Another thing, the most remarkable thing, she has given inspiration to those who are handicapped, people who look to her and say, if she can do it, I can. Not the least, she has given enormous pleasure to millions. Evelyns' story is an inspiration to those people who are physically disabled. And the people who are disabled, they look at Evelyns Glennie and they say, if she can do it, I can. The disabled people all over the world take her as a role model. And they say in a firm voice that if Evelyns could do it, I also can do. Evelyns became an inspiration for such type of people. And not the least, she has given enormous pleasure to millions. And Evelyns has given a lot of pleasure to millions of her audience by playing such a good music. She has given enormous pleasure to millions of her audience. These are the contributions of Evelyns Glennie. Dear students, our lesson is over. We already finished the first part of the lesson, the sound of music. It is about Evelyns Glennie. And now we are going to discuss the second part of the lesson, the sound of music, part 2, Shahanai of Bismillah Khan. Ustad Bismillah Khan was a great Shahanai player from India. His name is associated with Shahanai, the musical instrument that he made famous with his talent. His real name was Kamruddin Khan, and the people of India called him Ustad. He was born on 21st March 1916 in the Bihar province of British India. He died on 21st August 2006. He earned many national and prestigious awards like Bharat Ratna, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri, Sangeet Nadak Academy Award, honorary doctorates from Banaras Hindu University and Vishwabharati University. So he was one of the great musicians of India. Let us study about his life. Let us discuss the lesson in detail. Emperor Aurangzeb banned the playing of a musical instrument called pungi in the royal residence, for it had a shrill and unpleasant sound. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, he banned a musical instrument. He banned the playing of musical instrument at his royal residence. The instrument was called pungi, and he banned it because it had a shrill and unpleasant sound. The instrument called pungi had a very sharp and unpleasant sound. So the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, he banned the playing of a musical instrument called pungi in the royal residence because it had a shrill and unpleasant sound. Pungi was a musical instrument, the predecessor of Shahanai. When Mughals ruled India, before the Britishers came, there was a very famous Mughal ruler named Aurangzeb. He did not allow pungi to be played in his royal residence because he felt that it had a shrill and unpleasant sound. It had a very sharp and unpleasant sound. Pungi became the generic name for reeded noisemakers. Generic name means a name given to a class or group. Pungi became the generic name for reeded noisemakers. Reeded noisemakers means wind instruments like flute. Pungi became the generic name. Pungi became the common name for all types of reeded noisemakers. The name pungi was used to refer all types of reeded instruments. So pungi is a broad term for any type of instrument which uses wind to produce sound. Few had thought that it would one day be revived. So no one thought that one day such a noisemaker, such an instrument which made unpleasant sound would be played and their sound would be liked by the audience. Few had thought that it would one day be revived. Revived means brought back to life. No one thought that one day pungi would be renewed. Then what happened? A barber of a family of professional musicians who had access to the royal palace decided to improve the tonal quality of the pungi. There was a barber who belonged to a family of professional musicians. There was a barber who belonged to a family of professional musicians. He had access to the royal court and he wanted to play the pungi. He had some connections with the royal palace. He often visited royal palace. He decided to improve the tonal quality of the pungi. He knew that the sound produced by pungi was unpleasant. So he decided to improve the sound. Pungi had an unpleasant sound. A barber of a family of professional musicians, he had access to the royal court. He decided to improve the tonal quality, the sound of the pungi. He chose a pipe with natural hollow stem that was longer and broader than pungi and made 7 holes on the body of the pipe. The barber took a pipe. It was a hollow stem. The barber took a pipe which was a hollow stem. And it was longer and broader than pungi. It was a long stem and it was broader also. Then he made 7 holes on the body of the pipe. You know why he made 7 holes? If you have seen a flute, it is something like this. It is a pipe which is hollow from inside and has holes on it. So the barber, he took a pipe, a hollow stem that was longer and broader than the pungi, and made 7 holes on the body of the pipe. He made a new type of musical instrument. He made a new type of reeded instrument. When he played on it, closing and opening some of these holes, soft and melodious sounds were produced. He started playing the new instrument. He blew air into the pipe and closed and opened different holes. He started playing it. He started playing the newly invented instrument. Then what happened? He found that soft and melodious sounds were produced when he did like this. He played the instrument before the royalty and everyone was impressed. He played the instrument in the royal court and everyone was impressed. Everyone liked the sound produced by it. Everyone was impressed when the barber played the new instrument. So the instrument that is so different from the pungi had to be given a new name. The royal court thought that this instrument was different from pungi, so it should have a different name also. When the barber introduced his new music instrument, the royal court thought that they should find out a different name for that instrument. It should have a different name. Now let's discuss how the instrument got the name Shahanai. As the story goes, since it was played in the Shah's chambers and was played by a nai, the instrument was called the Shahanai. The instrument was named the Shahanai. There is a story behind the name. This instrument was played for the first time in the royal residence of the Shah. Shah means the king. Mughals called the kings as Shah. And it was played by a nai. Nai means barber. It is a term used for barber. So a barber had played it for the first time in Shah's court. So they called it Shahanai. The first part of Shah, which stands for Shah. The second part Nai, that is a barber. So this instrument was named as Shahanai. This is the story behind the name given to the instrument. The sound of the Shahanai began to be considered auspicious, promising to bring a good fortune. Auspicious day, we always use that word. So the sound of Shahanai began to be considered auspicious. The sound which was produced by Shahanai was considered to be a good omen, a good thing. The sound which was produced by Shahanai was considered to be auspicious. So it was played on good occasions. The sound of Shahanai was auspicious. So it is played in the temples. It is a necessary component of any North Indian wedding because it is auspicious. And for this reason, it is still played in temples and is an indispensable component of any North Indian wedding. So the sound of Shahanai is auspicious. So it is played in temples. It is a necessary component of any North Indian wedding. You can hear Shahanai being played at many temples and at weddings also. It is auspicious. So it is played in temples and at the occasions of weddings. In the past, the Shahanai was a part of Naubat or traditional ensemble of nine instruments found at royal courts. In the past, Shahnai was a part of Naubat. Naubat is an Urdu word. It means traditional ensemble or traditional group of nine musical instruments. Ensemble means things, here instruments that are considered as a group. In the past, there were nine musical instruments. They were known as Naubat or traditional ensemble. Shahnai was a part of the Naubat, the nine musical instruments. And these instruments were played at the royal court. Shahnai was a part of nine musical instruments of the past. Till recently, it was used only in temples and weddings. The Shahnai was played at the court of the king, in temples and at weddings. Till recently, it was used only in temples and weddings. But the credit for bringing this instrument onto the classical stage goes to Ustad Bismillah Khan. Ustad Bismillah Khan, he brought this traditional musical instrument onto the classical stage. Ustad Bismillah Khan, he changed the history of the musical instrument Shahnai. He was a legendary Shahnai player and people wanted to hear him play the Shahnai. So till recently it was used in temples and weddings. But the credit for bringing this instrument onto the classical stage goes to Ustad Bismillah Khan. He made it. He changed it. He brought the instrument onto the classical stage. He made Shahnai popular. It is because of Ustad Bismillah Khan, nowadays Shahnai became the most popular instrument. Bismillah Khan was the most popular Shahnai player of India. The lesson beautifully deals with the early life of Bismillah Khan in Dhamrayon in Bihar. His grandfather was a Shahnai Nawaz of the Bhojpur king's court. He used to sing Chaita in Biharji temple and practicing Shahnai in the Vishnu temple and Mangalmaya temple of Varanasi. And he used to sing Bhojpuri Chaita at the Biharji temple in Dhamrayon. He would earn a big laddu weighing 1.25 kilogram as a prize given by the local Maharaja. After 8 years, he got the highest civilian award in India, the Bharat Ratna. He belongs to a well-known family of musicians from Bihar. The young boy took to music early in his life. At Varanasi, Bismillah Khan was fascinated watching his uncles practice the Shahnai. Bismillah started accompanying his uncle Ali Bakhsh to the Vishnu temple of Banaras. Ali Bakhsh would play the Shahnai and Bismillah would sit captivated for hours. Flowing waters of Ganga inspired him. He improvised and invented ragas. At the age of 14, Bismillah Khan accompanied his uncle to Allahabad Music Conference, and at the end of his recital, Ustad Khan patted the young boy's back and encouraged him, "Work hard and you shall make it." With the opening of All India Radio in Lucknow in 1938, Bismillah Khan got a big break. He became an often heard Shahnai player on radio. When India got independence, Bismillah Khan became the first Indian to greet the nation with his Shahnai. Bismillah Khan has given many memorable performances both in India and abroad. His first trip abroad was to Afghanistan, where the king Zahir Shah was so much impressed by his performance. Film director Vijay Bhatt was so impressed after hearing Bismillah Khan play at a festival that he named a film after the instrument called Goonj Udi Shahnai, and the film was a hit. One of the Bismillah Khan's composition, Dil Ka Khilona Hai Toot Gaya, turned out to be a nationwide chart buster. And he was awarded India's civilian award, the Bharat Ratna, in 2001. With the coveted award resting on his chest and his eyes glinting with rare happiness, he said, "All I would like to say is, teach your children music. This is Hindustan's richest tradition. Even the West is now coming to learn our music. When Ustad Bismillah Khan received India's highest civilian award, Bharat Ratna, in the year 2001, his eyes were shining with rare happiness. He was very happy because his hard work had been recognized, and he gave an important message to the people. He gave an important message to the country. He told all the Indians, teach your children music. He told all the Indians to teach music to their children because music is the richest tradition of India. Teach your children music. This is Hindustan's richest tradition. Even the West is now coming to learn our music. And he said that even the Western countries wanted to learn India's music. Even the West, people from the Western country wanted to learn India's music. It is India's richest tradition. So you teach your children music. This was the message delivered by Bismillah Khan when he received Bharat Ratna. In spite of having travelled all over the world, Khan Sahab, as he is fondly called, is exceedingly fond of Banaras and Dhamrayon, and they remain for him the most wonderful towns of the world. Ustad Bismillah Khan, we call him Khan Sahab. He travelled all over the world. He was given so much respect and recognition, but he liked the places Banaras and Dhamrayon. They remain for him the most wonderful towns of the world. He travelled all over the world, but he liked these places very much, Banaras and Dhamrayon. He remained in Banaras and Dhamrayon. Banaras, where he learned music. Dhamrayon, where he was born and brought up. These were the two most wonderful towns of the world for him. He was so down to earth that although he had travelled all over the world, still he was attached to his birthplace. He was too much attached with Banaras and Dhamrayon. A student of his once wanted him to head a Shaana school in the USA, and the student promised to recreate the atmosphere of Banaras by replicating the temples there. But Khan Sahab asked him if he would be able to transport river Ganga as well. Already you know that Banaras and Dhamrayon were the two favorite places of Ustad Bismillah Khan. Once a student asked him, there was a student of Ustad Bismillah Khan, he wanted that Ustad Bismillah Khan should set up a Shaana school in the USA. A student of Bismillah Khan once wanted him to set up a school in the USA, a Shaana school. And he promised that he would recreate the temple of Banaras in America for Ustad Ji as he would miss it. He said he will replicate the temples, he will recreate the temples in America. In order to create the atmosphere of Banaras, student told Bismillah Khan that he would recreate the temples there. But Khan Sahab was not moved by this. He was attached to river Ganga also. So he asked the student that would he transport the river Ganga also to America. Khan Sahab asked him if he would be able to transport river Ganga as well. That is Ustad Bismillah Khan. He was attached to river Ganga. He was a true Indian. He wanted to say that he could not leave India. He was attached not only to the temples of Banaras, but also to the holy river Ganga. He cannot leave India. He was a true Indian. He was a great patriot. Later he remembered to have said, that is why whenever I am in a foreign country, I keep yearning to see Hindustan. While in Mumbai, think of Banaras and the holy Ganga. And while in Banaras, I miss the unique Matta of Dhamrayon. Ustad Bismillah Khan said that whenever he visited any foreign country, he longed to see India. He wanted to return to India. And then he says that when he is in India, in Mumbai, he yearned to visit Banaras and the Ganga river. When he was in Mumbai, he had a longing, he had a desire to visit Banaras and the Ganga river. And when he was in Banaras, he missed his birthplace, Dhamrayon, and the Matta, where he sang the Chaita and was rewarded with the laddu of 1.25 kilogram weight by the Maharaja. when he was in Banaras, he missed the temple in Dhamrayon. Ustad Bismillah Khan's life, his life is also a best example of rich and cultural heritage of India. Ustad Bismillah Khan's life is a perfect example of rich and cultural heritage of India. Why? Because one that effortlessly accepts a devout Muslim like him can very naturally play the Shahnai every morning at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. His life is also a very good example. He was a Muslim, but he plays Shahnai every morning at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. The writer says that Ustad Bismillah Khan was a perfect example of rich cultural heritage of India. His work was beyond the religion barriers. He was a strict Muslim. He followed Muslim laws. But every morning he would play the Shahnai at the Kashi Vishwanath temple, which was a Hindu temple. He considered music to be India's richest cultural heritage. Writer says that Ustad Bismillah Khan was a perfect example of the rich cultural heritage of India. His work was beyond the religion barriers. He was a strict Muslim. He followed the Muslim laws. But every morning he would play the Shahnai at the Kashi Vishwanath temple. This shows that he did not have barriers of religion in his mind. Ustad Bismillah Khan passed away on 21st August 2006 at the age of 90 after a prolonged illness. Ustad Bismillah Khan had been ill for a long time and he died on 21st August 2006 at the age of 90. Ustad Bismillah Khan passed away on 21st August 2006 at the age of 90 after a prolonged illness. He was given a state funeral and the government of India declared one day of national mourning. The entire country mourned the death of the legendary musician and he was given a state funeral. Government of India declared one day of national mourning and he was given a state funeral. Dear students, our lesson is over. You got an idea about the legendary musician of India, Ustad Bismillah Khan, who became famous because of his talent and hard work. He was a true Indian, a patriot. He loved India. He considered music to be India's richest cultural heritage. And he changed the history of the musical instrument called the Shahnai. Let's pay our tribute to this legendary musician.